Welcome to the opening session of Queer Catholic Faith for 2015-2016. I'm Marianne Duddy-Burke with DIgnityUSA and very, very happy to welcome everybody tonight to our first opportunity to hear from some of the equally blessed pilgrims who represented LGBTQI Catholics and our families in the World Meeting of Families, which was held in Philadelphia at the end of September. And as I was thinking about it today, I realized that this is probably the largest international gathering of Catholics in the US, probably since the last Eucharistic Congress was held back in Philadelphia in the mid to late 70s. So it was a big event, and it was great that we all had representatives there. So we're very pleased tonight to have 3 representatives of those pilgrims, and there may be more joining us later on who might add their stories. And I can certainly see that there are some folks among our audience who are in Philadelphia as well. So we'll invite them to share some of their experiences or send comments later on. As we move through the event tonight, just a few quick tips for how to make the most of this. Thank you, Logan. Logan Bear is here to help with any technical problems. If you wind up having any difficulties, please use the comment section, the chat section down in the lower left side of your computer screen to type in a request for help, and we'll try and get things sorted out for you. But again, just a few quick tips. The fewer programs you have running, the better your experience will be on this video conference. Make sure you have unmuted your audio device and set it to a volume level that's comfortable for you. You can use the chat section to let us know if you're having any technical issues, and just sit back and enjoy. Tonight you can see on your screen 2 of our presenters, Debbie Carpenter.
Entry and exit chimes are off.
Oh. And Delphin Bautista is here with us from Ohio. Our 3rd presenter, Marcia Garber from New Hampshire, is joining us by phone. So Logan, can you flip back to the first screen for us, the first slide? Great. There are some of the images that have graced the Equally Blessed World Meeting of Families website about these 3 particular pilgrims and their families. So we're happy to have all 3 of you join us, and also to thank you for the work and the representation that you did so well in Philadelphia. So I guess I'd like to start off tonight by asking each of you on the call, what led you to step forward and say yes when the call went out for people to represent LGBTQI Catholics at this big Catholic gathering? And Debbie, there were a number of pilgrims who really, that this was a new experience for you. You really hadn't done a whole lot before this in terms of advocacy, public advocacy for LGBTQI people. So what was it about this experience that got you to say, yeah, this is something I'd like to do?
Well, it was, my daughter asked me, Lauren, that's usually how you start something, is somebody asks you, and I said yes. So I think probably you, Marianne, had asked Lauren, after her wedding, the summer before, whether or not, Karen and I would, be interested in doing this. And so when she asked me, I said, sure. And then I started making some swag. So, I didn't know what it was my first time doing, anything for this community. I have done, lobbying for Fight for 15. I did a lot of union work, and social justice my whole life, but I hadn't done anything on this scale, and I really didn't know what I was getting into when I said yes, but I had faith and I went.
So you're a faith-filled activist. Great,
Yes.
great. How about you, Marcia? What was it about the pilgrimage that felt like a fit for you?
Well, you invited me, and I have to admit, if you hadn't invited me, I probably wouldn't have given it a thought. But also, I was just very aware that I was able to attend, and I felt really honored by your invitation, and felt like I really needed and wanted to be present to represent my family at this World Meeting of Families.
Well, I did have the gift of having seen you in action and knowing what a faith-filled and passionate place you had come from. So it felt like it would be important for that group to hear your voice, Marcia. So, Delphin, who hooked you into this?
A lot of different people, and by hooking me, I hooked my dearly beloved and my mother into it, and wanting it to be an opportunity for us as a family to do something activist to create spaces where all families are recognized, and just an opportunity for us to take familyhood to the next level. Jason and my mom did not kill me, and so I'm still here. But it was just an opportunity to come together as a family and to come out as a family.
And that must have been an interesting experience for you individually and all together, because each of you had, very different experiences coming. I mean, you had actually done the World Youth Day pilgrimage a couple years ago, so had that experience behind you. How about for Jason and Rebecca? Is there anything in their history that was similar to this?
No, Jason's activism has been to take care of me and to make sure that I'm in one piece. And so, silent but very powerful supporter. And then my mom has been active in Miami. She does have a Spanish-speaking ministry of sorts for Latino and Hispanic families, but nothing at this level. And so the two of them, I really take my tiara and hat off to them, because they really stepped outside of their comfort zone in a really big, intense way.
Yeah, yeah. Can you think back, all of you, to the preparation process or getting ready, and any sense of expectation you had? Did you have any idea what the event would be like, or what did you hope that it would be like?
Well, what I really, the preparation, when I was getting ready, I would talk to Lauren, and she'd say, well, I was very Pollyanna, what was going on. And she said, well, I don't want to say anything negative, Mom, but, you can think that. And I kind of, not so much the pilgrimage, but like the World Meeting of Families, I was thinking it was going to be more like retreats that I had been on. And, more hopeful, if like picking sessions that would be interesting and more interactive than it was. So I think it was the shock of the first day and a half of the World Meeting of Families was that it was all like one-sided, the presentations, and I was thinking, I was going to pick, I was looking ahead at a time of what sessions I might want to, go in, and I didn't get anything out of the sessions. And I was, I was thinking it was going to be a more joyful, even not doing the pilgrimage part, but I was going to get something out of the World Meeting of Families, the sessions, and, the feelings you get after you go to a retreat. And so that was, a little different for me. I thought it was going to be more fun.
So a precursor of things to come, folks. It wasn't all fun, but yeah, the context that you have would be we're comparing it to retreats from your parish and faith communities that
Yeah.
were nurturing and spirit filling and places where you could really engage with other members of the church and
Right.
grow with them and okay, so that's what you went in hoping for, relating to.
Yeah.
Huh, great. Delphin, how about you?
I think really similarly, I had similar expectations to Debbie. I also, though I knew this wasn't World Youth Day, sort of had that in as the backdrop, and things perhaps similar to World Youth Day. And I think Debbie shared, just gatherings, being able to share with folks, and being able to interact with families from around the world, and just to have those conversations and interactions. And but beyond that, also not knowing what to expect, and even looking over the speaker list and the different workshops, getting ready for the potential of what things would be said in the sessions. But one of the things that I was expecting, I guess, is just more interactions with other families and with other folks, especially from around the world, given the title of the conference.
Yeah, Becky's sitting here nodding as a pilgrim.
Yeah.
That was also part of her expectations, that interaction. And it's nice to know that we've been joined by Debbie's dog.
Yeah, that's Hershey. Photo bombing.
Marcia, did you have anything different that you were thinking would be
Well,
part of the experience?
I just was grateful that we had all the opportunities to talk to each other ahead of time, so that we got to know each other a little bit before we came together in Philadelphia. And I also, as difficult as it was, I visited the World Meeting of Families website quite often to try to figure out what this was going to look like, and to, I don't know if they didn't actually post what the workshops would be, but they posted who the speakers would be, and I was just really not too sure who I would be wanting to listen to at all. I also have to admit that I really thought that when we entered with our equally blessed outfits and our our bling, and provided by Deb and Delphin, and I think quite a few people made different things. I really expected to be not let in. And I'm just very grateful that didn't happen. And I'm also very grateful that we weren't told we had to take off our bling or our shirts.
So there was a bit of anxiety and fear about, the very open nature of our witness and the visibility we went through. So for folks who are watching the screen, I have on a sample of the shirts that the Equally Blessed Pilgrims were invited to wear. We had polos and T-shirts all in this brilliant blue with the Equally Blessed logo about, huge there. And I think by the second day, people were actually calling us the blue shirts. I heard that on a couple of occasions. So, and we did. We had these backpacks that were just stuffed full of all kinds of rainbow items that people had donated. Debbie made a whole lot of things. Karen Kelly, had made a whole lot of things. People donated rosaries and pins and all kinds of items that we could give out. We had prayer cards. We had all sorts of things. So the group was pretty visible and sort of stood out. So
Just a little
bit. Yeah. That'll be great. So Yeah, Debbie, you've talked a little bit about this, but others, can you describe sort of the overall atmosphere, like what the World Meeting of Families was like? Debbie, you've sort of mentioned it was very much being talked at
Yeah.
a lot of the time, and other things that folks remember, or how you would characterize this event.
Well, there wasn't a lot of like mingling between sessions. It seems like people, and there weren't a lot of families visible. I know that, the kids were in a separate section, but I didn't see a lot of families. I saw a lot of clergy, lay people. I didn't see families, so it was almost like politicians. That's what it seemed like. It was very political, and we did meet that one family from New Zealand, and they had come to several of our events. And I actually, when I was getting on the train, they were there too, and they were going up to New York. But other than that, there's just of all those people there, we didn't really meet a lot of families. And I don't know if they just didn't come up to us. If I didn't go there as a pilgrimage, if I decided I want to go to World Family, Meeting of Families by myself, I would have been lost, because it didn't feel very comforting. If I didn't have, the support group that I had that I went with. Yeah, let my dog out.
Yeah. So pretty much agree, Delphin, Marcia?
I mean, I again, I'm mindful that it is two different, two different experiences, settings, atmospheres. But at World Youth Day, there was a sense of community, camaraderie, even with folks who didn't necessarily agree with our presence. There was a sense that we're here, we're church, we're community, we're family, and I didn't get that sense at the World Meeting of Families. I think Debbie hit it on the head. It just felt very isolating, and I didn't feel the community outside of the family that we formed as pilgrims. There didn't seem to be like this excitement. I'm not sure how to explain it. It felt like we were going to an academic conference, and not to say that those aren't camaraderie building, but it just felt very dry.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, as you were speaking, Delphin, the word unconnected kind of came to me, and my whole my feeling about it was that it was very rigid, it was very controlled. The inside of the convention hall where the World Meeting of Families happened. So there was that event, and then there was the Festival of Families, which happened on the Saturday and the Sunday following the convention. But it was very orchestrated, very rigid. It was exciting, like when you were moving from one space to another, like you could feel the excitement, but you didn't really like feel any connectedness to others. Like you couldn't, you had to run from like one thing to the other. It didn't feel welcoming. I mean, as I traveled from one event to another, I didn't feel anybody smiling. Anybody was, I mean, some of the pilgrims, some of the other people that attended, did, greet you. But because we had on the different outfit, I didn't feel a whole lot of love as I kind of moved from one space to another. And it was kind of, I wrote this, I was thinking about this earlier, I wrote down, I felt empowered in my outfit, and I felt decimated all at the same time. It was just, it was really intense.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's helpful, context for folks to have about, the atmosphere of this event, that it really was, very controlled, very top down, not as much community building as I think that we had all hoped for and longed for in being there. And you did definitely feel, as if you were swimming against the tide constantly. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All that being said, could each of you think about, was there a significant encounter, or can you describe an encounter that you feel like was important in some way that happened in the context of this meeting or the programming that we offered supplemental to the events, the official events?
Well, with those events, the first when Marcia stood up at the I don't remember what the thing was with the about women, and we met that that couple from New Zealand, and we'd given them the information, and we saw them. They came to the Tuesday night thing. They came another day, and then we also saw them at the play, and then I saw them at the train station. So for them, they weren't wearing our shirts, and I can just imagine how isolated they felt, because at least we were together, that, they really participated in what we were doing. And I know there were a lot of other people, when we would get up and speak, and then they would come to us, and they didn't always see us again or follow us like that couple did. But, if we're feeling alone and we're in a group, I can imagine how people felt, when they were sitting there hearing the same thing we were hearing, feeling the same, gut responses that we were feeling, and, they didn't have a group. So, I was, very happy that we, I know at least that couple followed us through, and, and hopefully they'll bring things back to, their country,
Right. So, Debbie, what you're talking about is that in almost all of the sessions, the keynoter or presenter would, give their spiel about whatever catechetical thing they were talking about, and these speeches were often very outdated, old school theology, very exclusionary kinds of messages, and then part of what the Pilgrims did would be to go up to the question and answer microphones and say something to challenge what we had just heard. So I think that's probably, is that an okay summary?
Yeah.
Of that? So,
Yeah.
and as a result of that, people would then kind of come up and talk to you or talk to Delphin or talk to Marcia or whoever it was that had made the comment and tell their own story. And this couple from New Zealand was one of those folks who sought out equally blessed pilgrims as a countermeasure to some of what they were hearing there, and that they went to Tuesday night of the session. There was a panel of LGBTQ activists and allies from the Philadelphia area who spoke about their experiences in a way that what we weren't hearing in the official program. So they would come to things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Marcia, any?
I had a couple of, I'm sorry, Delphin, did you want to go first?
Oh, no, you go. Beauty before age.
Okay. I had a couple of encounters, and one was with one of the presenters. We went to a a workshop titled The Special Place of Women in the Family, the Church, and the World. And the first part of it was really good, and then there was a second presenter who got up and we actually I got up after that presentation and shared my story about my son who happened to be transgender, and that I found a very welcoming community in Dignity Boston and Dignity USA. So, and then we met up with one of the younger presenter after the workshop, and she challenged me. She was right in my face about trying to make an analogy between the fact that my child was transgender, and trying to make an analogy about the woman who tried to change her race, the woman that appeared to be a black person, and that had happened. And she challenged me in that she thought I was denying that happened, and that's really not what I was doing. I was saying to her that that's not accurate. It's not an accurate analogy. The two aren't. One has nothing to do with the other. But she wouldn't back down, and so there were a few of us together. And Deb, I think you were there for that.
Yeah.
But and the amazing piece is the grace of God is that we continue to bump into this person throughout the week. And she crossed my path, and I was actually able to engage her in another conversation. Which made me feel a lot better, because my initial attempt to converse with her was, it fell on very deaf ears. But I had another opportunity to kind of, present reality to her. So anyway, and then the other encounter that was really significant for me was there was a cardinal. His name is Cardinal Tagle, and he's from the Philippines, and he seemed to be the only presenter that I know that I heard that gave me any hope at all, any hope for any compassion in this institutional church. And after his presentation, I actually went straight to the front to try to meet him and speak to him, but he had already left the room, but there was another cardinal with him. And I was actually able to engage with this cardinal and tell my story again. And I just broke into tears, because it was just so powerful to speak my truth, to share my family with this cardinal who, whether he was just paying me lip service, it felt as though I was making a connection with him. And I just broke into tears, because that's kind of how powerful all of these events were. So I'll stop talking.
No, what a grace witness for both of those individuals, Marcia. It was powerful to be there. Thank you, both Debbie and Marcia. And before we turn to Delphine for an encounter story, I just want to remind everyone that in a few minutes we'll open up and take your questions and comments. So please use the chat box to jot down anything that you'd like to get into in the latter part of the show, and we'll take that on. So very moving. Delphine, what do you have a memory that you would share?
Which one?
So many.
I think the entire week was a moment. Even when going to the sessions and being in a space where verbally we were not welcomed and dehumanized in many different ways. It was comforting to know that we were not alone, that we had each other and that we would take care of each other and, uh, you know, hold each other's hand or look at each other and, sometimes roll our eyes, but, that, we were there together. But then folks like the couple from New Zealand, the folks who would come up to us after we asked a question or after one of the breakout sessions would come up to us and say, thank you so much for being here. I have a gay son, or my sibling, or thank you for pushing the conversation forward. And so knowing that there were folks who perhaps quietly were in solidarity with us, and that perhaps there were more of us than we thought there would be in the conference as a whole. And so, yeah, I mean, there's not a specific moment of that. It's just sort of in general, people coming up to us and thanking us for being there and sharing a little bit of their story with us.
I often wondered if all of us hadn't been there so visibly, if these other folks would have had any place to share
Right.
their stories, or question what was being said over and over and over again from all those very amplified mics there. So yeah, really important. For most of us coming together, this was the first time, this group had come. These 20 individuals were kind of forming community on the fly. We met, many of us, through months leading up to it to converse, but not everybody was on all the calls and all of that. So I'm curious as to what you learned from the other pilgrims who were in the group. Because it was an impressive and inspiring group of individuals and families who were there. I felt something that you took away from other members of the pilgrimage team, pilgrimage family.
Well, I like the fact that there were parents and kids, and it's kind of like a blurred line where it was parents and where it was kids. Because my daughter wasn't there during the week, so I felt like I was other people's mothers, and then the mothers kind of joined. We'd have little cliques, and every now and then, the mothers were together, for a while. So and none of the mothers actually knew each other before then. And but one thing I learned from the other pilgrims, the mothers and what I call the kids, is like hearing like the coming out stories. With my daughter, there was a really big story. She just came home one day and said it, and there was no big deal. I don't know. It made me think that maybe I should have, had more, made me think about my own story. Like why wasn't it, did I not cover it enough? Did I just like brush it over? Was she struggling and I didn't, realize it? So it made me, everyone else sharing that. I was trying to think, I just remember her coming home and saying, oh, by the way, I'm a lesbian. And the only reason why she was telling us was because she had someone she wanted us to meet. And then she just, that same day, she went to both grandparents. So she, wasn't like a drawn out thing on our side. I'm sure it was on her side, but, it might be nice for me to get with Lauren and, to see, when did she really want to tell me, how long, because I felt like I didn't really have a big story, but I'm not saying that story's not there. It's just something that, I didn't pursue maybe at the right time. So
I'll have to kind of go back and find that post. Where's your ex?
Right. Yes.
How about you, Delphin?
We just sort of all. Deb approached me in the middle of the convention center. It was like, "Oh, Delphine." I was like, "Who is this person?"
I know. And
like,
I
"Oh, I
only knew.
recognize your picture."
Yeah.
So, and that's pretty much, I think, how it was all week. Folks we all clicked and resonated with each other and uh, became a quirky, dysfunctionally functional, amazing family. And, making sure that folks were being taken care of. I mean, Louis would be the first one at the convention center and was passing out pins and initially I was worried, and I think many of us were concerned for safety, but then after a while I was like, no, but that's what we came here for, and so go Louis. We all served, I think, as reminders for each other at different points in the week, whether it was to make sure we were drinking water, to how to have a conversation with someone, to we need to joke and be sarcastic and vent right now. And we all just, I think just it happened. The spirit moved and we all connected in different ways.
Thanks, Stefan.
This is Masha, and I would just echo what you both said. And for me, it really just cemented my idea of what church is. I felt like we were our church, and I felt hope in everybody's presence. I felt everybody's faith so strongly, everybody's truth and their ability to, be open about their truth. I mean, when everybody, got up to the opportunity I had to hear some of you get up to the microphone was just so empowering. It just gave me the strength to keep going, because I think that maybe I know for myself, I can only speak for myself, but I felt like, I don't know if I can do this. And, it just, we really did, I feel like we really did empower each other. And I was so grateful that we had the opportunities in the evening. Somebody asked, how did we support, how did we find nourishment? And we had opportunities in the evening to come together with not just ourselves as a group, but with extended family, extended church in different settings. So we had that in the evening to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was Ruby Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God.
The restaurant right across from the hotel became kind of a watering hole for many of the pilgrims. I was going to refer to the question that was asked about how did you take care of yourself, Jennifer. Thank you, Jen, for that. I think you've heard some of the ways that people took care, and we continue to feel the need for that. I mean, it was tough, I think, for everybody, a lot of sort of assaultive language and, some tough interactions, and just a sense of church that was kind of isolating and non-inclusive in lots of ways that meant that nourishment. Marcia, thought your point was also really great. We had gone, and set up all of these programs in the evenings and on the weekends where folks could come and meet folks and hear experiences or debrief, share their stories. And they wound up being, I think, as much for the pilgrims as it was for other folks from either the Philadelphia community or the World Meeting Families to come and kind of detox a little bit from the official event. So that was great. Are there other questions or comments from the folks who were not part of the experience that you'd like us to go over, just go ahead and type them in, and we will do that. Yes, Brad is saying, I think we planted lots of seeds. Brad was there with the Fortunate Families group. I wonder from each of you, how did it go when you came back to your home? What was your reentry like? The post-Philadelphia experience.
My mom and Mom flew back to Miami and then we drove back to Ohio. We both recognized that we should have taken Monday off to recuperate and not go to work immediately. And I discovered that to do an LGBT sensitivity awareness raising training for future doctors at our med school, perhaps not the best time to do it because I was slightly snarkier and just more confrontational than I usually am. And Jason was like, baby, you just spent a week what we just did. And so you were unleashing things that you couldn't unleash last week. And so perhaps not the best way to re-enter the world, to come to the med school and do a 2-hour training. So I think we're all still recuperating. My mom said that she did take Tuesday off. She went to work Monday and then she was like, I'm calling in sick. So
Yeah, there was a physical exhaustion to it, as well as an emotional and spiritual one. Yeah.
I found it really difficult, and I didn't even have to go to work. So I can't even imagine what that would have been like, to have to, to go to work. Totally drained. And then I don't know if it was the very day after I got back, or if it was the second day after, to hear the news about the Pope and the Kim Davis saga. That just, it was like, just stick a knife right in my heart, and then the following day they followed it up with, and he met, with a gay couple. So it just continued, the hypocrisy. It was, I kind of tried to be hopeful. It was like I tried to keep the hope and tried to, be hopeful when I left, and then, it just continues.
And I think the hope held in tension with reality. In the week after that this happened, a trans woman was murdered in Ohio, in Philadelphia. And so, to go from a week of camaraderie and solidarity with each other, to come back to our homes, and then to hear that in the city that we were just in, a woman was murdered, bringing it up to 20 now, 18 of whom are women of color, just was shit. And I apologize for cursing, but I was like, damn, this is real. And baby steps aren't doing it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think there was something about hearing those kinds of news events after having been in sort of the center of the kind of rhetoric and thinking and emotion, that allows this sort of thing to happen. There was a resonance about all of that, that came directly from the kinds of things that these people who were lifted up as the speakers, the experts, the model in this part of the church were saying, that, that fed into the Kim Davis stuff, that fed into the Keisha Jenkins kinds of situations and these murders. It was very stark to have these things play out, in the echoes of the world meeting, I think. Yeah. Debbie, have you recovered?
Sort of. When I came back on Monday, so I took the train. It was, quite relaxing. Like I said, I had met other pilgrims in the train station. It was, bustling with people leaving. And when I went back to work Tuesday and Wednesday, most of my people at work were following the trip. They knew about the trip, and were following the the Equally Blessed Facebook followings. But then I switched jobs like October 1st, which was, so I worked 2 days at my old job and then started October 1st. And so now I'm with people that didn't even know I went on the pilgrimage. So it's really different. If I had continued where I was, people were supporting me, and so now I have new people. So it's kind of hard. But I had my mother-in-law had a tag sale this weekend, and I was working it, and I wore my World Meeting of Families shirt. And when a woman came up to me, she says, "Oh, did you go down to the World Meeting of Families?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And so I had a conversation with her. So I said, I need to wear my shirts a little bit more, and because the support group that I had at work, I mean, I still see those people. I'm going to see them tomorrow night, but that kind of got cut off. So it's almost like, not only did I leave Philadelphia and my group of pilgrims, that was my support group. I did have a support group here, and I just kind of left them. So, it's a little bit, I don't want to forget. I want to, find something I can do here. I don't belong to any of the other groups. So, I need to do my homework and find some groups to join.
Wow. Well, we're more than welcome in any of the groups. You are part of us all now. It's
yeah.
Yeah,
whether
Logan,
you like it or not.
Yeah.
Yep.
You've been adopted in.
I got the shirt.
Logan posted a question here. If there is another similar experience, what advice would you give new pilgrims?
Mm.
I wouldn't tell them not to go. I wouldn't tell them not to do it, because I think, it's good to be and I wouldn't want to discourage anyone, which I know Lauren wasn't trying to discourage me when I was saying, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to do this, and she's, well, Mom, it might be different, but
because your daughter Lauren had gone to the World Youth Day as well.
Yeah, she had gone to the World Youth Day, so
that frame of reference,
right. And I said, well, everybody speaks English, how hard could it be? So I don't think you want to tell everyone that it's going to be very discouraging, because you need that that hopefulness. You don't want everyone going with doom and gloom, because that's not going to be helpful. I mean, I thought we were pretty much upbeat most of the time. We weren't negative. And, you don't want to change somebody's attitude. I mean, we need hopeful, it was probably good you had a lot of inexperienced pilgrims that didn't know what the heck we were doing, when we went down there, because, it took us till Wednesday to realize, oh my God, this is hard. And, so
get newbies.
Get newbies, yeah. And so I wouldn't discourage anyone from doing it, and I would, if I was to do it again, I think I'd be stronger and wiser.
Marcia?
Don't go alone. I would say have a support person with you, unless you're really, really strong on your own and can keep yourself safe.
I echo Debbie and Marcia, not to go alone, not to be scared, and then also to have fun and find ways to laugh and be humorous uh, and just, yeah, be silly. I mean, we had moments where we were just silly, and I think that helped us all survive. By Wednesday, we're like, we need to laugh. If not, we're all going to drink. And so I think it was important to, like Marcia said, to not be alone. And then by not being alone, making sure that we were also having fun and finding laughter in moments to laugh.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Delphine made me laugh with his "I love my husband" shirt. That was like, that lifted everybody's spirits. And then when we were saving the Girl Scouts, those were like two really fun times.
Saving what? We missed that.
The Girl Scouts.
Go ahead.
There was an exhibition, and I guess I was with Delphine and Jason, but we walked past the girls. There was some Girl Scout offshoot something or other, and Jason's like, we got to go represent the Girl Scouts or save the Girl Scouts, because there was like an anti-Girl Scout booth. And she told us we weren't Catholic, and I don't know, she was just really negative. I guess the Girl Scouts are supported by, I don't know if it was Planned Parenthood, but she had a bunch of groups that they were against, and that the Girl Scouts are pushing abortion and going on. So then we went back to the other Girl Scout group that was a nice Girl Scout group, and then we gave them all our bling. So
Girl Scout solidarity, yay!
Yeah.
There was some really crazy thinking in this place. I mean, really, really crazy, like fallacious stuff, and just So that was crazy. I know we're coming to the end of our time, so if anybody else has any question you want to ask, type it in real fast. But I'm wondering what this experience meant for each of you. How did it make you think about the state of our church and the need for the importance of the work that's done by the equally blessed groups? I mean, where did it leave you with all of that?
That we're a hot mess, and in the hot mess, we are equally blessed. And it's exciting to see the church going through puberty and through growth spurts and trying to figure out hormones and drama and all that fun stuff. And so I think that's one of the things I left with. I did encounter a person I once knew who is now a Carmelite nun and in a very conservative order of Carmelites. And I think I gave her a heart attack because I was wearing my rainbow skirt and all my rainbow gear. And so I think she didn't pass out because her habit wouldn't let her. And so it was a reminder of my past and of the journey that my mom, Jason, and I have all lived, and with its ups and downs, and like the growing pains that we've all gone through, the church is going through her growing pains and going through her puberty. It's a very long puberty, but it's a puberty nonetheless. And so, yeah.
I feel for me like when I read that you might ask about that, Marianne, that possibly that they could be doomed is kind of the way I came away from, kind of crash and burn, with a lot of dysfunctional systems. They have to crash and burn before they can come back and be alive again. And I feel like unless and until the institutional church is, able to acknowledge and kind of welcome. They don't even there's not even any acknowledgement of the reality of people's lives. I felt like their description of family was really rigid. It was probably white. It was probably a mother. It was probably a father, and however many children you wanted to procreate, which I'm not sure that it even had anything to do with ability to do that. But that was kind of what was presented at the conference. And it really bothered me that they didn't own any responsibility for the damage in the church. They didn't own any of their own responsibility as far as sexual abuse. Didn't even get mentioned, I don't think, in the entire conference. That really bothered me. And it's not okay with me that they're complicit in damaging families, because unless and until they can be acknowledged and be aware that there are many people in the world, not just that fit in their little box, they are complicit. And they want to blame, what the overall sense I got was they want to blame us for the destruction of the family. And it got spoken, not exactly directly, but very insidiously throughout the whole conference. And I feel as though, for me, and I don't know if this is just my own grandiosity, but the entire conference, as much as they didn't want any of this to be discussed, that's what the whole conference felt like it was about to me. So, yeah, I'll stop talking.
Powerful summary, Marcia. Thank you. Yeah. Debbie, your last thoughts on this?
Well, I think, not just our group. I think there were many, marginalized groups that the church leaves out. Like I had said, when the straw that broke the camel's back, and the way they talked about adopted children, and I didn't hear it just in that one presentation, so they had said nothing about, divorced people or, single parents. It was not just, it was all families that, are left out of this, or, people who may use birth control because they can't afford to have 10 kids. But they're, they left a lot of families out. And I didn't see any other groups supporting those families, so at least we're one step ahead, we're marching on, but there's others that are marginalized that didn't seem like they had a group there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think I left feisty to be Catholic again, and with Debbie and at the Girl Scout table, with the Girl Scout table telling us you're not Catholic, and I was like, who are you to tell me we're not Catholic? And so I also left with the feistiness. Granted, I'm naturally feisty, but I left feistier.
Yeah. Well, thank God for the feisty and justice-oriented spirits of the three of you, your families, and all the pilgrims who were there. It was an amazingly strong group. And for everybody who's listening, I think, you've heard some of the stories. If you have pilgrims in your community or know some, I think it continues to be really important for people to tell the stories, to speak about what happened, to tell the truth of, of the darkness that's in parts of the church and what it meant to try and be a little bit of a light for all of those people who were not represented or included in that model. We're continuing to try and support the Pilgrims. We had a debrief call last night. There's another one next week. I know many communities around the country are offering opportunities of support. So it continues to be important. So thank you for your interest in what happened in Philadelphia. Please, keep looking for articles in organizational papers, in other opportunities for the Pilgrims to share their stories. Logan, if you could put up the final slide, please, that'd be great. If you have not had a chance to visit the World Meeting of Families pilgrimage Facebook or the website, please continue to do that to find out more about things that happened, follow the stories along. And we are still working to finish the funding for this event. So the website is on this slide. If you search Equally Blessed World Meeting of Families, it'll come up. We welcome your support for the great work that these pilgrims have done. So thank you so much for joining us. We at Dignity will need to get back to folks about future QCF efforts. As you know, we are in the midst of some staffing changes and how this will be handled moving forward, and the timing and staffing are still being discussed. So thank you for your patience with that. Thank you very much to Marcia, Delphin, Debbie, and Debbie, it looks like Lauren wants to talk with you at Thanksgiving next. More of the story. So clearly more to come. But thank you all for sharing your stories. Thanks to all the pilgrims who are there, and thanks to everybody for listening. Appreciate your being here. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.